Good afternoon, all. So, the topic is rights of the differently able. So, when we talk about the rights, rights cannot come to a person without a law. So, as a lawyers, we always think about in a different pragmatic way. Like, are you all an optimist or a pessimist? Optimist. So, when steamboat was initially invented, like everybody, the pessimist came and said, it will never start. But when it started, again they complained, it will never stop. But finally it got stopped. So when you look from that perspective, when you are an optimist in nature, law always comes with an exception, with a rule. So we lawyers have the tendency of making exception as the law as an exception. So we try to convert law as an exception into a law. So from that perspective, like if you take the topic on learning disability, there are other types of BD and ED, behaviorally disturbed children and emotionally disturbed children. So BD and ED goes along with LD. If you take the world historical perspective on jurisprudence, the world leading, if you take the field of a science, the leading, who can you say the topmost scientist in the world till now? Either you can say Albert Einstein or Thomas Alva Edison. These two people had the learning disability. They have dyslexia in nature. But overcoming all these things, they have become a very successful personality. If you take people like Winston Churchill or Nelson Rockefeller, who was the governor of the New York, later on he went on to become the US vice president. All these people, they have got the disability within themselves, that is learning disability, either dyslexia or some sort of disability. If you look at the word disability, I think we are pessimist because we are using the term as disability. But if you spell this disability as this, DIS not as this, but this ability. So this ability, so the word disability itself connotes that ability. So from that perspective, if you take the American Disabilities Act and the Rehabilitation Act, because the topic is an international conference, so I need to narrate a certain details about the international law perspective. So all these laws again and again reinforce one basic theory as to how to educate or learn a child, especially persons with a disability. So whether you should have a segregated school or integrated school, whether you need to have a special school. When John Kennedy was the president of America, a major reform in American disability law took place. Because of his personal experience, his own daughter has got a disability. So that made John Kennedy to come out with a lot of pragmatic solutions within the law. So the law was revised, kept in tandem, so that the people can realize the benefit. If we take some of the cases in the American Supreme Court, unlike Indian Supreme Court, much of the matter has not been debated in the American circle, Indian circle. For example, with respect to the extra time, one such famous case was a nurse who was a hearing impaired with a learning disability wanted to study nurse or pursue her course in the field of nursing. So already she had a doctorate PhD in education, then she wanted to become a certified nurse. But when she was testified, when she wanted to become a nurse, the board of medical examination has to give a clearance so that this candidate can get herself qualified as a nurse in US. So when it went as a process, unfortunately, the system in America completely rejected this particular candidate to become a nurse. The reason stated by them was, already she is hearing impaired and she can't spell or hear the voices or speech made by the other person, especially in the matters, she defended by saying, no, I got the capacity and the capability. If you take this jurisprudence level, philosophers like Amartya Sen, they come out to the point that you need to have a capability approach. Don't see the disability, but see their capability. If it is based on a capability model, you can make any person to be a most productive one in the competitive world. So when she wanted to become a nurse, she argued up to the Supreme Court, American Supreme Court, by saying that she is capable of understanding, she has got the cognition, through the lip read movement she can understand everything. But they said lip movement may not facilitate, help her in all the case, because there is a substantial potential harm not only to her but for the patients at large. So they can't jeopardize or harm the patient's life at large by making her to be qualified as a nurse. And the other argument was, when this nurse is put into in operation clinical procedure theatre, the doctors normally they will wear the mask. So mask is worn by the particular doctors at the time of surgery field. Even she may not be able to understand the lip movement. That was a negative stand taken by them. But there are two issues. One, whether in all the issues, all the candidates, they wanted to outgrow themselves. If you take, as I said, Einstein, or Thomas Alva Edison, or Winston Churchill. To quote Winston Churchill, yes, all these people are dropped out from the school. If you take Albert Einstein, to quote an example, he was not qualified in any other subject. His secondary grade elementary school teacher said, this boy is fit for nothing. He cannot do anything, substantial achievement in any part of the field. Then he went to the high school. He excelled only in math, but he flunked in biology, chemistry, and French. But the headmaster of the higher secondary school understood the Einstein's potential in mathematics, and he said he gave a special opportunity by creating a special platform for him. That's why you can't have a universal design. The catering requirement of a student, especially learning disability, will vary. He understood, since he excelled only in mathematics, he gave an opportunity, and the rest of the world has seen what he was really. Similarly, when Winston Churchill has written in his book, I was traumatized. I will never forget the horrible experience that I underwent in my school. All these people, when they were socially rejected, isolated, because American system, they had a lot of struggle. Despite all these achievements, when they wanted to study in the general school did not come forward to accommodate a candidate by saying that this boy is taking the general time of the other students. We have to pay special attention to him. This is a narrow thought process that goes into the mind of everyone. If you want to train a special kid, normally the teachers, then they have gone back to the parents. In all the cases, people who have achieved exceptional one, mothers have become the natural teachers. So they undergo a lot of process. The mother was supposed to learn the subject or give a special attention. You have the attention deficit disorder, ADD. In order to overcome all this bottleneck, a special individualized attention was given so that these people have become an exceptional one. When you talk about the exception, the negative commentators, the comment said that only few people have succeeded, doesn't mean that all other people cannot succeed. So that is the general one cannot become the exception. But when people of that caliber can become an exceptional one, it all happened because of that institutionalized training provided by the natural parent mother, with a support system done by some teachers or some sort of people who have got the right mindset to do that. So the laws were created, enacted in the country to have a better rehabilitation scheme. So whenever the rights, then the funding program in a school. For example, the government in Tamil Nadu, 10 years back, they have withdrawn the extra time conferred upon the differently able children. So I fought a case, then we won. Normally it varies from people to people. It depends upon how quick you are. If you are quick, the IQ rate, the standard of measurement done by the international standards is very fast. But at the same time, all other people with the disability, they have got the ability within themselves. They have got the potential. But what is required, what is lacking is that from the state system, there is a lack of law. From the legislature, the lack of implementation of the law, because they don't see, they only see the majority at large. If you go by the world statistical data, 15% of the population are disabled. In that, so you can't ignore the 15% of the population globally, and because of that scientific other advancement, because of the mishap in the technology, now with the people are born with a lot of hearing impairment and multiple disabilities, the cognition impaired children are born because of the various multiple reasons. So because of the war, various reasons, because of the genetic disorder, so many other things. So in order to overcome all these things, the law has to facilitate an individual. So law can come into the effect only when the legislatures come forward and enact a law which can fit into all the people at large. Their rights should be universally protected. So when you give the 1 hour extra time, they are able to do a much better job than others. So the learning process normally, naturally comes to them as a part of the embedded system. Because learning is nothing but a training that you provide, a training to the mind. What the exercise that you do to the body, reading is to the mind. So you have to have a constant reading, and there are certain type of people who have got a various ability. One will be a good problem solver, and another will be a creative thinker, and another will be a best imaginary skills or other personality traits. So all these things can be cultured, developed, nurtured. It all depends upon the holistic way or approach that everybody takes on it. As I said, the nurse was not allowed. In India, what happened? A girl of disability was not allowed a medicine. Then we fought the case in the Supreme Court. Then Supreme Court gave a direction that the Medical Council of India has got a nascent legislation where people with a disability, if they can't perform the job, what you are looking at, you have to modify, construct the job in such a way they can perform. So at the end of the day, because you cannot expect everything from everyone, each and every people have the special ability. When you have a rules and regulations, the rules and regulations are framed only by man, only by a system. If you want to admit any different able person as a doctor, courts now have said that even with people with visual impairment, they can become a doctor. If they are not able to physically administer a person, they can be entertained in research or in teaching or whatever ways and methods and means. There are so many modalities are there. So if you go by the international theory, in order to protect the rights of a child, right from the beginning, there are a structural and stereotypical process. Because their disability is not a barrier. What the law says, that's why in America, they call it as an idea. Idea is nothing but Individual Disabilities Education Act. So they have got in a very positive way, so that Individual Disabilities Education Act. So in order to provide education, you need to have a special system. In India, if you go by the special education, like people who are able to afford, who are in a position, they are able to provide either personalized attention or tuition. But if you go like, unlike in America, there are no state-funded institutions, and state-funded institutions did not have any proper infrastructure or the lack of psychologists or clinicians to train a student. So to have an approach on this area on learning disability, you shouldn't approach this issue only from the legal perspective. More than that, you have to approach this from the medical perspective. If you go by the medical perspective, formula is prescribed by called as DSM-4. There is a diagnostic statistic manual, formula 4, where it talks about the mind of a person. The mind of a person, if a person is not, if you are not physically trained a person, especially people with a disability, what happens is that the energy level, if it is deconstructed, if it goes in the negative path, statistical data says that there is a possibility for these people to indulge in some sort of crime. Because the crime comes with the delinquency. The delinquency happens because of the abhorrent or abnormal behavior. The abnormal behavior happens because of the lack of specific attention in diverting a child from thinking on the right path. So majority of our experience, what we have seen is that apart from education, they have to be trained in multiple level of sports. Multiple level of sports involves taking them to the gym or meeting a doctor or do some sort of physical aerobic activity or do some sort of yoga, meditation, multiple activities. This can happen only when you have a cohesive, holistic environment, a full life cycle with all the facilities spaced up in one particular place. Because these people, along with the parents, they are stigmatized, they are ostracized, and many people, they do not want to reveal the fact. The point is that the law can come into the picture as a remedial one when the issues are highlighted, when the issues are discussed or deliberated across the globe. Even when I refer to that John Kennedy, because of his presidential status and the affluent status in the family, they did not disclose the disability of their own sister for a long period of time. And the history says that one point of time, she was sent to UK along when her elder sister was appointed as a foreign ambassador. So majority of the people, they remain, cry or make a cry in silence. So this issue does not get highlighted. When it will get highlighted, when all the people are concentrated in one platform, in one common goal. At the same time, there are two issues. People are completely isolated. People with a disability and the parents, they are in a separate group. The rest of the society is in a different group. In America, a question was posed whether they should have an integrated special school or that they should be, segregation should be there, or inclusive school, or whether these people should be able to study in the general school. But what that American psychologists and experts, they have come out with a very important theory, very beneficial for the seminar. They have said that you cannot have a standard procedure for all. Some children, especially people with learning disability, they perform extremely well when they only interact or make a communication with the general society at large. General students, when they interact, there are two issues. One, the general people understand the difficulty. If you are getting isolated, if these people are kept away, aloof from the rest of the society may not understand what their demand is. At the same time, there are certain people, they cannot interact or mingle with the general school of students. Those students, in fact, require a special school administered only by the special school. So it depends upon, you cannot have a strong tailor-made approach as to be made depending upon the specific requirement of the individual, depending upon the disability. Depending upon the learning disability, there are some people are emotionally disturbed, as I said, behaviorally some people are disturbed. We are talking only about the learning disability. Learning is the next process. But you have to understand the reason, whether it is then you need a lot of medical experts, psychotherapists, psychologists, and audio optimist or audiologist, whoever it is. So these experts has to work. So it should be a full inclusive environment. Then only the rights of the disabled people can be realized at large. I will just finish in 2 or 3 minutes. The right and the development of the rights of the disabled person itself came into the platform in the year 1981 when the International Year for the Disabled Person was made. Then 82, World Program of Action came forward. Then United Nations made a convention, the rights of the person with disabilities. The biggest irony is that majority of the countries do not adapt to the international standards. We are talking about international seminar, but all the global experts have to get united and have a wide theory discussed among themselves. To end up, I will just say a quote from Rabindranath Tagore, and I will say how, because disability is often perceived as a matter of charity. Charity means a caring. Caring, which they say that, for example, people who are vulnerable, weak or poor, or these people has to be protected, given some sort of upliftment. It may be on a charity model, but what is required is that more than charity, a right-based, these people should not be viewed as an object of charity, but you have to protect their rights. Because they are also equal among equal, and they have got every right to get strengthened within the mainland system, because a person's individual choice, autonomy and freedom has to be respected. Because every person has got a bodily integrity, bodily choice, personal autonomy, freedom, independent thought. Just because of the disability, it is the only defect. Every person, there is no person without any defect. Every people have got their own plus and minus. In that cases, they have got a defect in certain issues. But that can be sorted out when society comes as a whole platform. So Rabindranath Tagore says, go not to the temple to offer your flower on the feet of God, but make your home filled with love and fragrance as a beautiful flower. He says, go not to the temple again to lift a candle to the altar of God. At the same time, first remove your heart from the darkness of ego, sin and pride. He says, go not to the temple again to bow your head before the God. First, you bow before the next human being with humility as a human being and respect everyone, and go not to the temple to kneel down, to bow and kneel down before the God. At the same time, what you have to do is you kneel down and lift the people who is downtrodden. At the same time, do not crush the young ones, give them the opportunity to grow. Do not go not to the temple again to ask to the God to forgive your sin. At the same time, you forgive the mistake or the wrong that is done by your neighbor. So this is the best way. Finally, to have a right conventional approach, Swami Vivekananda says, feel my children, feel for the poor, feel for the downtrodden, till your heart stops and blood reels. So if you are a human being, if you are a doctor or any field of personality, until and unless we care about the people who are voiceless, people who are in dire necessity, requirement, especially people with a learning disability, we have seen, exceptional ability, they are God's children, because they are bestowed with a special quality and the talent. All the society, parents, teachers, academicians, in every people think in the perspective, we can make all the people with a learning disability to be a real learners with ability, with all success. Thank you so much. Thank Maria Amma for giving this opportunity and the institution for organizing. Now we have seen Nandakumar, Raghavi is there. They're living as a shining example.
Main thing which I would like to ask is, what the law of fraternity, though this act has come in 2000 Act of 2016, where learning disability was also included in the
Correct.
Now this act is not being followed up by the respective states. Okay, to a certain level, things are, unless you pressurize, yes, madam is there, Jalakshmi is there, implement. So we are able to get that kind of a certification for, what happens in a rural sector.
It's a very good question. Non-implementation of the law is one of the thorny and a very painful issue. Because in India, everything is done on some political consensus or political consideration. For example, the same if you see, the different able people are treated on par with the civil rights movement, the black people. When black people rights were taken away, disabled people came and said our rights should be protected. So they have made a law. Similarly, in India, these people are at the vulnerable level. So you got SC/ST Protection Act. If there is any violation upon the SC/STs, it is considered as a penal offense. In countries like Spain, persons with a disability, if it is a violation or right-based issue, which is infringed by the state or individual, it is given a penal. Unfortunately, in India, we do not have a law, but the Rights of the Person Disabled 2016 talks about a punishment. But if you go by the statistical data, not even a single case, nobody has filed any report, nobody has been penalized. And the biggest violators are the government itself. Because the government authorities, because they take disabled people for a ride, in the sense, because of the lack of, sorry to say this, sensitive approach on the part of judiciary, on the part of all the authorities. So,
I am an NGO also, NGO. I had taken a child who had passed his 12th standard to NIOS, and I went for admission. Of course, now it is ratified by the Senate. When I took 3 years back, that's in 2019 for his admission. They said, you have to go to university and get the no clear, no objection certificate. All this was not at all required. Now, from 22 onwards, after the NEP policy, it has been taken out that you don't have to, only the
national policy
of the NIOS is proven. So there are so many other things which children suffer.
correct.
They are not in par with.
That is why the law has to be respected and protected. So whenever there is a violation, the court or the administrative authorities should take it as a very serious issue. That's the solution. Yes, definitely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Prabhakar. Sorry, we are. Yeah, I'll give you the phone. One more question.
First of all, I really wish to thank you for the simple reason I've been coming to India for 16 years, and the last 8 years I've been on learning disabilities, and many a time I felt that I was going to give up. I've lectured in universities, I've lectured throughout Tamil Nadu, and I felt that I had a brick wall in front of me. You are so refreshing in what you say, you are so clear in what you say, and I really believe,
Thank you, sir.
I really believe that you're an inspiration. It has given me more strength to try and continue to help, because you see the picture as clear as crystal, you presented it wonderfully, and I really congratulate you in being able to do that, because many do not see it the way you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.